dead last in the NFC. Who stands there for you, buddy?
This is probably the easiest one to do in the entire power rankings, unless we had the AFC, and the Chiefs would easily be one. And that's the Arizona Cardinals.
I already had it typed in.
And they I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know a single analyst that would put anyone other than the Cardinals at 32nd, because they know they're the worst roster. In fact, if there's one thing, I know there's no Cardinals fans in the chat here, but Cardinals fans, if you happen to be listening to a 49ers Rush podcast, the hope is for next year. They actually, Monty Ossenfort made some fantastic moves with the 2024 draft in mind. So they already know, look, this year is a wash. They got rid of multiple veterans, and they had J.J. Watt retire, and they didn't really add anything in return. So they know that they're going to lose. They're in one of the tougher divisions, at least with two of the teams in the NFC West. So you got to admire that they have a strategy, I guess, John. That's all I can say.
When that trade happened, when they fell back from 3 to whatever, it got those future
11
picks, I was so mad. I was so mad because I don't want Caleb Williams in our division. Now, real quick, I don't mind spending a little extra time on these NFC West teams.
Yeah.
My question to you is this. Let's say they tank, they get the number 1 overall pick. Do they take Caleb Williams? With that
absolutely.
Crazy contract that Kyler, he's got $55 million next year on the cap. Next year.
Yeah. But you don't pass up an opportunity like that. You've got a brand new GM, brand new head coach and coaching staff. They didn't draft Kyler. Even the guys who did draft Kyler might have a little buyer's remorse at this point. Nothing against Murray's talent. That has never been the question. But you got into the contract issue where they're telling him not to play video games and to watch tape. That's an issue. Add on the fact that he's had injury issues and he's coming off an ACL where he's going to, in all likelihood, at least miss the first half of the season. They could get to a point, John, where neither him, the Cardinals organization, nor Murray and his camp will want to get him out there. They're going to be out of playoff contention basically right away. So you might just keep him on the shelf and try to get some draft compensation, sending him to another team who's desperate, who maybe doesn't get the Drake May, Caleb Williams sweepstakes in 2024. But yes, if you're at that top pick, I think you can't do anything other than take who's from what we know, another generational Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence type quarterback prospect at number 1.
Oh, I like it. Man, it's good to have Brian back. I like just like soaking in all this stuff. It's awesome. Yeah, Rick says many red flags with Kyler, and they're not stopping. They keep adding on. All right, let's go to number 15 in your NFC West power rank or NFC power rankings. Who you got?
Well, John, you're probably going to want to spend a little more time on this one as well, because we've got the Los Angeles Rams.
Whoa.
Now, here is one thing about the Rams. There actually is quite a bit of uncertainty because they have an insane amount of rookies. I believe it's an unprecedented amount. I think they had close to 40 rookies on their roster after the draft. So they could just by pure volume, they could have some hits in there. They still have Aaron Donald. Stafford, we hear, is healthy and looked good in camp. Cooper
we heard that
Kupp
last
coming
year
back.
too, right?
We did hear that last year. You and I were speculating on how bad that elbow was. Now he's got the neck thing too. So you still got at least the core that won you the Super Bowl. You have a whole bunch of rookies. You don't know what you have. So 15, as it stands now, completely plausible. I don't think even if the rookies hit, they're going to be in playoff contention. But I think there's a chance they could win more games than they won last season if some of these rookies end up panning out.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no way they get to 8 wins, right? Like
even if they get 6 or 7, they're going to improve on their 5 wins from 2022. That's what I'm saying. In an NFC in general that is not nearly as strong as the AFC, they could sneak through a few wins. You could have an Aaron Donald disruption game. You play the Cardinals twice. I mean, you can give them 2 victories most likely there. There's some other teams in the NFC that are weak. There's a whole conference, the NFC South, that up in the air. So I don't think they're in playoff contention. They could end up being higher on the power rankings towards the end of the regular season, but now there's so much uncertainty, we have to put them at 15.
Yeah, the thing that cracks me up is all the positivity coming out about Stetson Bennett. Like, that is just, every time I hear it, I'm just like, oh boy. Like, go ahead, guys. Just bring it in.
Here's the thing. If you're the Rams, and like the Cardinals, you're out of playoff contention pretty early, there were questions about whether, forget Stafford's health, there were questions about whether Stafford would even continue playing and that he might retire. Why not throw in Stetson Bennett towards the end of the season just to see what you have? I'm not saying he's the savior. Everybody wants the next Brock Purdy, right? Which is good to be the team that got Brock Purdy. Congrats, guys. But if you're the Rams, why not give
They
this guy
who's last year? They didn't
Yeah.
even have a pick. They pulled
Right.
their guys. So, yeah, I will say this. Congrats to McVay. They announced they got
Yes.
a kiddo
Daddy
coming,
McVay.
which is
Mhm.
awesome.
On
Actually,
Father's Day. Nice announcement.
I want McVay out of coaching because I want to listen to him in the booth, to be honest with you. Like, selfishly, I think McVay is pretty good at what he does. Do I like his attitude and all those things? Not too much, but I do like it when he talks. So, yeah, we'll see.
Also, he's been to 2 Super Bowls already, and he's still like 36 or something. You can't deny his talent as a football mind, and yes, it would be nice to hear what he has to say at Amazon.
There we go. All right, let's go to number 14.
So this is a team that won their division with a losing record with the greatest of all time at quarterback. And guess what? He retired. He's told us like 3 or 4 times through various videos. That's the Tampa Bay Bucks. Interestingly enough, John, their roster is fairly intact. It's not that dissimilar from the team that won the Super Bowl just a couple seasons ago. But the quarterback position, the most important position at all, there is a training camp battle between Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. That's nobody's idea of excitement. A lot of their star players, Levante David still playing at a high level, but he's getting up there in age. Shaq Barrett getting up there in age. They did re-sign, some of their secondary help. So they have pieces, but their offensive line got much worse last year. But most importantly, the quarterback is bad. They need a running game. Leonard Fournette's gone, and he didn't do anything. I just can't get excited about them. I'm going to be confidently put them at 14 here.
Yeah, they're weird because I don't think that they're going to be like a 6-win team. Like they're going to get to 7, 8, 9 wins. I feel like.
Well, they won 8 last year. They went 8-9 and won the NFC South. That's a whole nother can of worms, that division. But I think a lot of the rest of the division got better while they got worse. I don't think they're as bad as the Rams and the Cardinals. I actually think if we're tiering this thing, John, there's a decent bump between the Bucks and the 2 NFC West teams that we've already discussed. But it's just that they won 8 games with Brady and their division got better. So even if it's only 5, 6, 7 wins in this jumbled middle of the NFC, I'm pretty confident putting them at 14.
I like it. All right, 13. Next one up.
Keep on rolling. This is a team that has a lot of hope and hype for the future because they got the number 1 overall pick after they traded for it. We just don't know what they have yet. They did get rid of one of the best receivers in the NFC in DJ Moore. They drafted the quarterback of the future, hopefully Bryce Young. All reports out of training camp is that this guy is the real deal. I was very high on Young coming out. The only real issue, if you could call it, I could see was his size. So if you take out a factor that may not be a factor for a player like this, if he can stay healthy and if he makes good decisions, this could be in like the Trevor Lawrence type of quarterback as far as his talent level. That's how good he is. I love Frank Reich as the hire, really reset that coaching staff. But we just like the Rams, there's just so much that we don't know yet. We can't project too much based on rookies. I don't like to project that. So until we show what they can do, they do still have some young pieces on defense. Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, Brian Burns. They brought on Von Bell to shore up their safety from Cincinnati. But there's still a lot of uncertainty, so it could be a good season in a weak division, but for now, I'm going to keep them where they are at 13.
The Panthers are interesting. One, just the Niners ties, right? Like, it was such a fun game. We go to Carolina last year. They're handing out fire rule shirts, as Panthers fans are walking in, beat the brakes off of them. They fire their coach. They trade us their best player. Then they get Darnold, right? And what's it called? Our new defensive coordinator steps in, does a hell of a job. We get both those guys too. So like we got their coach fired. They traded his best player. We got their quarterback that, won 4 out of 6 games. We got their DC. I don't know. The Panthers, I just feel like there's like a
49ers
connection.
East. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. We just kind of took them all. And right here, David says, great to see legit football back on 49ers Rush.
David.
Guys, if you have not yet, this is what you got to do. Type in legit football. The podcast is incredible. It's on YouTube. How often are you guys recording right now?
So we have both podcasts. We have the Legit Football Podcast on Monday and Friday, which I do not host anymore. I'm actually hosting it this week, though, because I have the time. But we have 30 Minutes of Football that I do host on Wednesdays. We also have the Legit Football Newsletter, which is where this all came about. And our social media is on fire. We have interns that work for us now that's putting all sorts of amazing content on every platform you can think of, except Snapchat. We don't really do anything on Snapchat. So yeah, just Google Legit Football. There's lots of stuff to choose from.
I freaking love it. Awesome. And Clarzard says, got to give Bryce Young a little optimism. Yeah, I mean, you believed in him enough to give up all that to go get him, which is weird to me. I like Bryce Young. I would have a hard time trading up for a 5'10" quarterback, but that's just me.
The height doesn't worry me as much as the weight. Because I think I've heard quarterbacks break this down where they said the height isn't as big of a deal. Batted balls is actually not a thing when it comes to height because, number one, you're typically in shotgun these days. You're back and the offensive line is spread. You see the holes between them. Height doesn't really matter as much. Maybe you can say middle of the field vision, but that hasn't been a problem for Young in college, playing in the SEC with a lot of big dudes. But he's less than 200 pounds. I don't care what he weighed in at the combine. What happens when a 300-pound defensive lineman? That's my concern. But if that ends up being a false concern, Young's talent's incredible, and sky's the limit for him.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.